All right. And then lastly, Ironmaster Super Pro Bench Review. So this is an item that I've had in my home gym about a year and a half. And it's one of those items that I kept seeing really positive reviews, and I didn't necessarily like want to add it into my home gym. I didn't really see why it was such a big deal. However, actually using it in my home gym and around and lifting on it, I have decided that this is the best adjustable bench for me within my home gym. And I am going to discuss that in this review. So, number one, it is very durable and it's very stable. So, I mentioned my initial skepticism. It is because it's an average size bench, and there's other above average size benches that I had used and really liked, and just thought there's no reason for me to move down a level to something smaller. I'm also over 200 pounds, so I thought maybe it might be a little bit flimsy for me. However, it's not. It's rock solid. I don't think I've ever even noticed a wobble. It does include a 1,000 pound weight capacity in the flat position. It's made of entirely 11 gauge and 12 gauge steel. Again, just heavy duty construction, and there's little movement at all. In the incline position, the bench supports up to 600 pounds. And then even using it as like a GHD type, if you add the crunch attachment, me at over 200 pounds, it's rock solid. I don't feel unstable at all. And with that, it's very stable. And what makes this my choice is its combination with how easy it is to move around and just overall convenience. So, I have a pretty loaded home gym. I also don't really like to leave anything out if I'm not in use. I've got kids running around, going in and out. I just like to clean up the floor, and not have anything just laying around. So having something that's easy to move around, store is like essential for me. So a few things about this bench in regards to that is it weighs only 65 pounds. I think some of the other rep and rogue benches are closer to 100 pounds, and they're just more difficult to move around, especially turning in tight spaces. This one's really easy to do. It has integrated wheels and transport handles, as you would expect. And then it can be stored vertically. So if you can see in the picture, I have a little space in between my stairs and like a sink in the garage that I usually put it in. And then lastly, I'll mention if you're like a husband and a wife, this is a good option for both of them to use. So if you're like if you're a female and you don't necessarily want to wield around a huge bench, this is a good option for you as well. All right. The removable seat was something that I've come to appreciate as well. So as opposed to most of the other adjustable benches on the market, this one includes a removable seat that you can take off completely for flat bench. And then also there's 3 different height settings that you can use for different lifts. So I find that it's good for just finding the right angle on certain like adjustable dumbbell or adjustable bench movements, or you can change it to closer to the middle of the bench for things like shoulder press or tricep extension, so that it's not hitting your head, and it's easier to use for movements like that. And then there's also there's no gap for flat bench. So not that I ever found like the gap on the AB 5200, for example, too big of a hindrance, but it is pretty nice. It is pretty nice using it with no gap at all. All right. Another key feature of this bench is its ability to add attachments, and Ironmaster has a ton. I have only used the crunch sit-up attachment, so everything else I don't have experience with. But the crunch sit-up attachment I use as like a GHD for GHD type sit-ups. I mentioned earlier, it's the bench stays incredibly stable when I'm using it, and it's pretty easy to take on and off. No big issues there. And then I also really like using it for decline adjustable bench. So I don't like using a decline bench without having some sort of leg holder, especially if you're going a little bit heavier. But I really like doing decline benches specifically on the Smith machine. It's a nice variance there. And then in terms of like other attachments, I think it's just nice to know. Like if you buy the Ironmaster bench, it's nice to know that eventually you'll be able to add, if you need to, a leg attachment, dip attachment, chin up attachment, preacher curl attachment, and then it can also connect to a cable tower. So I personally would rather for those things, I'd rather just have it I'd personally just rather have those things set up on like a rack or actually have a pulley system. But again, nice to know. And then when it comes to the cost, so it's not the cheapest, it's not necessarily the most expensive, but it is more expensive than I think most people want to pay for a home gym bench. With that being said, I do think that it's worth it with just its overall high quality, its overall versatility. The durability is there. Like I've said, I've had it for a year and a half. It still looks new. I think it's going to last, for many years. I've heard Ironmaster products last forever. So that also plays into the cost. So in general, I think it's a very good long-term investment for those who just want to do the buy once, cry once. Again, I think like knowing the amount of attachments that you can potentially add over time, that's also a nice longevity piece as well. I think if you are a beginner and you're just kind of testing the home gym waters, this might be more than you need. You might not want to spend $500 on a bench, which is totally understandable, and something a little bit more budget friendly is acceptable. But just know, if you decide to eventually upgrade and you want your bench forever, your lifetime bench, you could say this would be a good option. So just in general, if you have the buy once, cry once attitude, this one, I don't think it'll disappoint you. All right, some drawbacks. So I think a lot of people really love the ladder style adjustment, which is just a little bit easier to adjust. So that's just kind of a minor inconvenience. The way it is set, the pop pen does really lock it in place though. So you could say that it's not quite as convenient, but it's pretty close. Again, drawback. It might just be a little bit more expensive than you want to pay. I think in terms of aesthetics, I think there's better looking benches. It would be nice if there were, some color options, but yeah, it's all right. And then I also really like having a wide pad option. So you are limited to stock pads, which is it's like 10 inches on one and then 12 on the other side. So you're stuck with that. No like wide pad add-ons, which might be something that they might want to consider in the future. All right. So if someone were to ask me, I want to buy a home gym bench that will last forever, but I don't want to pay rogue prices, for example, or I want to stick within the $500 or $600 range, I would most likely say Ironmaster or one of the rep options. There's just pros and cons to the different styles from rep, and then also the Ironmaster versus Rogue. So I personally would go with either the Ironmaster Super Pro bench or the AB 5200. So let's just do a one-on-one example for that. So I mentioned the versatility and the easy to move aroundness of the Ironmaster. So the AB 5200 is going to be a little bit more bulky. So if you want something with like a more wide pad or just a heavier frame, the AB 5200 would be a great choice as well. I also think the AB 5200 looks better. So if you want to add something to match your rack, for example, rep would be an option with any of their benches because they have more options. I think the Ironmaster is more suitable for like couples, or like just a wider variety of size. So I think like someone smaller and then also somebody larger, even larger than me, would do just fine with it as their basic home gym bench. I also think the AB 4100 is a good option for a wide variety as well from rep. It's cheaper than the Ironmaster bench, but isn't quite as versatile. But that one's pretty easy to move around as well. Maybe not as easy to move around as Ironmaster, but still a good option there as well. And then I did have the Ironmaster and the AB 5200 at the same time. I ran out of room and needed to get rid of some stuff. And ultimately, the AB 5200 went away. And it was because of like the easeability to like store and move around that I ultimately went with the Ironmaster. Sometimes I do miss that AB 5200 with a wide pad. I've also had the GetRx FID AB2. You could throw that in here as well for sure. So I mean, it's a very tough decision between these two. And I can definitely see two different ideal customers for both of the options. So, but yeah, I do miss that wide pad on the adjustable bench sometimes. And then just a few more items to check off. So assembly is pretty easy. Powder coat finish has lasted pretty well. Should cover or should make sure that the bench looks good for a while. The vinyl is durable and provides a pretty good grip. I do prefer the rep grippier vinyl though. It's a little bit more grippier and more like sweat resistant. And then I mentioned it earlier, but there's two pad widths when flat. So 12 inches on one end and 10 inches on the other. Only the 10-inch side can be used for incline and decline. So I do see that as one of the drawbacks as well. I personally, as a bigger guy, I wish it was just fully 12 inches across. So in conclusion, is it the best bench for most? I think for people who are willing to have the buy once, cry once mentality, yes. Especially if there's multiple people using the home gym. I think it's just it has a really solid versatility combination with durability and just like overall a strong bench. So yeah, I highly recommend it. I think Ironmaster knocked it out of the park with this one. I know they are continuing to update it as well, or just like they know benches is one of their strengths, and they're focused on keeping these benches at the top of the list. Anything to add, Adam?
Well, a few things. I have to say that like my initial take on the bench is the same as yours. I looked at it and said, probably not something I would use. And then, you've had it in your place and I've used it a handful of times. It's like, this is actually a really nice bench. And you're right, it is easy just to wheel around. I actually like the adjustment with the foot pedal and the lifting up and down. I think that's great. One thing at home gym con, I was able to use, I did dip on it and I did do some pull-ups on it. Shockingly sturdy. You look at it and it looks tall, skinny, like it's going to tip over. And, you know, like you and I, we're not little guys. And, you know, I was up there doing some dips and stuff and it wouldn't budge. So those attachments were impressive because I did not expect that from the way it looked. So no, that was a good take.
I'd say this would be an ideal bench for you in your basement.
Oh, you think?
I do. What do you currently have?
Oh, the AB 3000.
That's what I
rep.
thought.
Yeah.
I think you would like this more than that. I mean, it's
think?
just like, yeah. I mean, the ability to store vertically, and then
I'd get rid of the Titan 90 degree if I had this with the way it goes 90 and the seat goes higher, so you can get the pad lower on your back, so you can actually like lean back a little into the bench and press. That's my issue with doing a regular adjustable. But yeah.
Dude, I think you would like this more than the AB 3000. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and, I mean it's also like quite a bit more expensive, but
yeah.
We're
talking like 350 to like 500.
Do you just like always have your bench in the rack when you're not in use?
Yeah, it sits in the rack.
Yeah.
Yep. Or there's like a space in between the lat tower and the rack. It's like I squatted yesterday. It just sat there. Yeah, vertical storage is something I want out of my next bench whenever that may be.
Yeah, cool. All right, well, I think that's it.